You're listening to Stagger Cast, brought to you by Stagger Gear.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Stagger Cast. I'm down here in southern Vermont with my buddy Nate Corey.
What's up?
How you doing?
It's going.
How's deer season been for you so far?
Slow. Really slow.
Yeah, same here. It's been kind of slow. So this is going to be another season update. We're going to be bringing season updates to you guys pretty much every week here till about January when deer season's done. And then we'll start getting back into the guests and whatnot. But yeah, deer season has been a little slow around these parts, that's for sure.
Yeah, not much feed. Seems like they're pretty spread out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I haven't seen any acorns really.
Nothing.
I've seen a few here and there, but nothing substantial. Like a lot of the trees that did have a few acorns, it seems like they dropped in September and they're already pretty well cleaned up from what I've seen.
Yeah, what little bit of them there was, I would say, are gone.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any beech nuts either yet. So
nothing. Apples are pretty much dropped and gone.
Yep. It's going to be a tough bow hunting year until they start working scrapes real good. I know they were working scrapes, from what I could tell, through about mid-September till beginning of October, and then the scrapes have kind of shut right off from what I've seen.
Yeah, they were pounding them, it seemed like, and then it just stopped.
Yep.
I don't know if it's because it just warmed up or what. But
well, I don't know. I've seen that a few years now where it's like the scrapes are real hot in mid-September and right into like the early part of October, and then it seems like they shut off until, well, about the 20th, October 20th and on, and it seems like scrapes are real hot again until about, November 6th or something like that, and then the scrapes kind of peter off again, but
it's getting close.
It is getting close to be that time. Yep, I ended up shooting a doe a couple weeks ago now, the first week of Vermont's bow season. I was hunting the edge of a green field. I got way high up in this big willow tree. It's kind of a cool setup. It was like a ring of trees that grew out of the same base. So when I climbed up into the base, I was already like probably, 6-7 feet up. I stacked a bunch of rocks to get up on the base. And then when I got up in the base, I have my timber ninjas, and I got up probably, my feet were probably like 25 feet to the ground. So I was pretty high for having 3 sticks. And right at dark, she came feeding down the edge of the field, and I ended up shooting at her the first time, and I hit a limb, and so that arrow deflected. She took a bound and stopped, and she had no idea what or where I was coming from. She just heard a loud crack in the tree, so I put another arrow in, and I drew back on her, and I shot, and I hit her. It sounded like I popped her diaphragm, and she took right out of there, took right off, and I got down, looked at the arrow, and I had a lot of gut on it, which sucked.
Yep.
But so I ended up giving her an hour or so, and then me and a buddy started kind of blood trailing her a little bit and figured we'd give her some more time. So we waited like another 2 hours or so, and ended up losing the blood after like 200 yards. So my wife and I did like a loop, and we ended up kicking her out of a bed, which, I knew at that point that it was not a good situation because we had lost blood and then kicked her out of a bed like 200 yards from the last blood. So we went back to the house and ended up leaving her for like 4 hours. Me and a buddy went back out, scoured all around, couldn't find her. So I got up the next morning, searched all over, grid searching. And another thing too is after we kicked her out of the bed, we thought we heard her crash down in this like edge of the field, kind of like a bushy section. So when Jake and I went back out a few hours later, we looked all around there and we couldn't find her. So the next morning, like I said, looked all around for her, couldn't find her, had to go to work, went to work, got out of work, called a dog, tracking dog. He came up and right where we heard her crash, she was laying there in a big pile of brush. And so I was happy about that. None of the meat spoiled, just the inner loins. That was the only thing that was bad on it. But the shot wasn't terrible. It was, like 3 or 4 ribs up, but she was quartering to me a little more than I thought. So it ended up exiting out the guts. And yeah, I learned a few lessons from that one. Definitely, if I have gut on the arrow, I'm going to leave them for about 10 hours, I think, next time.
Yeah, you have to.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had any experience with that, like not being able to find them or having to call a dog or anything?
No, I helped Jake find his.
His doe in Vermont?
Yeah, the one he hit. And that's pretty much it. I either get him or I hit that one the same night you shot yours in the shoulder.
Yep.
You texted me, said you hit one. I texted you back, said I hit one.
Yep.
But that was a little far of a shot. Shot that. Sounded like it hit. I figured either lungs or I really thought shoulder. So went and grabbed my other buddy, Connor. We went and looked and couldn't find any arrow. Couldn't find any blood. Did a loop, finally found some blood. Tracked that deer for like 2.5 hours in the dark. And jumped it. So I figured I'll go and look for it in the morning just in case. So we lost blood that night and couldn't find any more blood. So went back the next morning, spent another couple hours at that same spot and couldn't find any blood in that spot. So I walked every trail out of that swamp that she took us into. And I finally found one dot on some leaves, so I just kept following her tracks. Found a little bit more blood, and she only went like 40 yards from where I last jumped her. And she stood up out of her bed and took off. So she was fine.
Yep. Just hit her right in the shoulder.
Yep. Right. Must have been right square. And it never found my arrow either. Wasn't in there when she ran off.
Well, unfortunately, that's the, harsh reality of bow hunting. It can be tough.
Yep.
And like I knew when I had shot mine that I had hit her in the diaphragm. That's why I was so like eager to get on the blood trail. And I was, it's easy to just go look. It's hard to just back off. And, even though I saw gut on the arrow, I was like, oh, I hit that diaphragm. She's got to be dead right over here, But I definitely learned if you got gut on the arrow, you're better off just pulling back, waiting the night. The only thing around here, though, I hate waiting is because of all the coyotes.
Yeah.
I got so
same with
lucky.
up by where I was. There's like 20 of them, it seems like. So it's like you chance either pushing the deer, not getting it, or waiting and still not getting it because of the coyotes.
Yeah, I was super fortunate that the coyotes didn't find the deer, and I'm fortunate that the dog tracker I called could come. He actually came up while I was still at work, and he came up to where I had shot her, and by the time I had got out of work and got up here, he had already found the deer. So that was cool. I had to send him my information and everything, my picture of my hunting license and all that. And, it's kind of a small town, so I think he already kind of knew who I was or whatnot. So it worked out really good. The deer didn't spoil. Coyotes didn't get it. And she's in my freezer. So
yeah, if there's nothing you can see tracking them, best thing to do is just call a dog.
Yep, call a dog. Yeah, that's the first time I've ever had to use one. But
yep, I've never used one.
Pretty good resource. I was pretty happy because I had literally put on the morning after I shot her 5 miles grid searching back and forth within like a mile of where we last jumped her, and I couldn't find the deer. And the way she had died, she was bedded down, so it wasn't like her belly was up. I was kind of looking for white, when you usually looking for a dead deer.
Yeah, and you don't. They do weird stuff anyways. Like when I was tracking that deer, she'd like turn around, run back down her blood. And the only reason I knew she did that is because she was only bleeding on the one side. I hit her in the shoulder. So she'd run back down at 30 yards and then jump off it. Like coyotes were chasing her, something like that. But
yeah, that's what they do.
It's hard to pick that stuff up.
Yeah, with no snow.
Yeah, no snow. And if you're in a swamp where you're pushing through stuff and the blood's shoulder high, it's pretty hard to find. It's not like it's spraying out.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure.
And gut shot's even worse. So
Yeah, I'm super happy that we found the deer and got her in the freezer. She didn't get, that day at work really sucked because I was all stressed out. I thought I had wasted the deer. But I mean, it just goes to show you, that little bit of a quartering 2 angle after I missed her. Probably didn't pick up on that quartering 2 angle because things were tense at the moment.
right, and that lack of light too in the nights kind of.
Right, yeah, it was still
hard.
legal shooting. Like we can
dusk though is.
Yeah, we can shoot a half an hour after sunset, and it was probably like 5 or 10 minutes after sunset, and it was a little cloudy, so it was getting, it was getting pretty dark, but still legal time. But when I first shot at her, she was perfectly broadside, but when she took that hop or bounded forward, and I got another arrow and stuff, she must have kind of turned towards me a little bit, and I didn't really process that because it all happens in a blink of an eye, so I'm drawed back again on her. I get right on her shoulder again, and I, release the arrow, and just happened to be she was quartering to me, and it blew right back through her like it did.
Yeah, and if they're not like 20 yards away from you and you're shooting out further than that, usually you don't even know where your arrow's hitting. I don't shoot Luminox.
I don't shoot a Luminox either. I almost think it would have been good to have one.
I think so.
That night, but the arrows go so fast too. It's kind of hard.
Yeah, that's a problem, I think.
Yeah, but she was probably, I bet she had to be about 26, 27 yards when I shot her, but I was using my 20 pin.
Yep.
And I'm not dropping much from my 20 to 30.
No. Shooting heavy arrows too.
Yep. So. Yes, I am. I'm shooting heavy arrows. I think I'm around 600 grains.
Yeah.
The whole arrow. So that's pretty beefy. Not crazy like some guys go, but.
And definitely a gut shot's a lethal shot. But.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I knew she was dead somewhere, and Maggie and I heard her crash too. It's funny, when we went down there and looked around where we heard her crash, we couldn't find her because she was right there, right where we heard her crash. She was probably dead on her feet when we jumped out of that first bed. Bet. But it was a, unfortunate situation, but I am happy that we got the deer, and, but what about buck sign? Have you been finding much buck sign yet? Or?
A few rubs, nothing crazy. I think I found maybe 2 rubs. Nothing hitting scrapes really lately.
Yeah, I've been putting on a lot of miles and on the weekends, and I have not been finding buck sign. This is probably the first year since I've been really hunting hard that I've seen like 0 mass crop.
Yeah,
I can usually find it somewhere, and when we're bow hunting, we're usually focused on the mass crop because obviously, we want the deer to come to us.
That's what they're switching to this time of year too. So it's like
right, and we're not hunting like big, huge like wilderness areas where there is no mass crop where you can't pattern the deer.
Right.
Usually bow hunting, we're focusing on acorns, or beech nuts if we can find them. But it seems like we never really find beech nuts. But usually we're focused on acorns because it brings the deer to one spot and we can bow hunt them.
Yeah, I've been pretty much just using this bow season for scouting. Seems like.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it could heat back up because a lot of the spots that I hunt are on or around community scrapes. So hopefully, towards the end of the month, they'll start really picking up and we can start actually bow hunting those bucks. But
yeah, I would think this week it's supposed to be dropping down into the 30s. They're going to start moving and wandering a little more. Start making some scrapes.
You would think, yeah.
Get ready for early muzzleloader in New Hampshire.
Yep. I have a funny theory that I kind of wanted to talk about on this podcast is if you run cell cameras in the big woods, I know a lot of guys, and I'm guilty of it too, is like you get a picture of a big buck on your cell camera and you're like, oh boy, I got to, go in that area and hunt. But what you should do is if you're running a few cell cameras in the big woods, is you should hunt the areas where you haven't had a picture of a big buck in a while.
Yeah, because it's just a matter of time.
Because it's just a matter of time because I feel like there are loops that they do in the big woods are so big.
Yeah, it can be a week.
It could be a week, could be 2.
Yeah.
It could be 2 weeks by the time he
Especially
comes
if
back through.
It's rot. They're with a doe. They're with her for a few days, I would assume.
Right,
so.
yeah, but like this time of year, their swings are so massive, especially with no mass crop. They're just wandering. But I do think they will come back through the same area, but it's like if you have a bunch of cell cameras and you're like, oh, this one over on this mountain range, I haven't had a big buck on that one for like almost a month. You're better off hunting that camera than you are the camera that's had a buck on it 3 days ago. You know what I mean? It's like almost like I'll get this weird feeling where I'll be like, man, that camera hasn't gone off in like 3 weeks. And then bang, there's a big buck on it. And then it's dead again for another 3 weeks. But it's just kind of it's almost like a backwards thinking of what you would almost think. Like, it's weird. You would think you'd want to go hunt where you got the picture of the buck. But when you get the picture of the buck and you're at work, it's too late.
Yeah.
He's already gone through.
That, and I think the big woods, these bucks pretty much just eat browse.
Yeah,
so
they just wander.
They don't need to come back to the same bush every day. And if they're living in a cut, they literally just stand up, turn their head, feed, lay down.
Right. How do you pattern a deer that can eat anywhere? You can't. You don't. You can hunt scrapes.
You find where his track's going in and out, and that's about the best you can do.
And another thing too is if you were going to bow hunt big woods, which I've thought about it, like real big woods, you could bow hunt signposts the end of October.
You probably could, yeah.
That would probably be pretty good because it seems like they hit those a lot the end of October, early November. And boy, it'd be slow.
Yeah.
You wouldn't see much. It'd be a lot of all-day sits with nothing but birds and squirrels or chickadees. But when that one does come, I mean, it's definitely upping your odds in the big woods.
That or a nice scrape if you can find a good scrape.
Seems like a lot of those real big wilderness areas, though, there's no such thing as like a good community scrape. It's almost like they just kind of wander and they paw the ground here and there, but it's not like areas where there's more deer where you can find those big community scrapes that are on like those pinches or saddles or big flats, where you'll find those big, huge scrapes that every buck hits. But a lot of those real big woods deer,
it's hard to bow hunt bucks on 3,000 or 4,000 footers.
Yeah. Yes, it is. They're random creatures. I've yet to find like a wicked beach crop way up on a big mountain. I can imagine if you find it, it'd probably be insane.
Either shoot a big bear or a big buck, I would imagine.
Or both.
Yeah. I probably would pass on the bear.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Seems like a lot of the high elevation beech nuts that I've ever found are usually on the ground and cleaned up by mid-September.
Yeah.
They fall. The higher up you go the mountains, the earlier they fall. And it's almost like they fall as like and same thing with acorns. You come down the mountain and they fall a little later, and it almost seems like the deer kind of follow that mass crop line. Obviously, the big bucks will still go up high, but the majority of the deer will follow the mass crop down off.
Yeah.
If there's no mass crop to be had, doesn't matter.
Right. They're just eating browse.
They're just eating browse. Yep. They're just wandering around. I think I've seen one green rub this year, and I put some freaking miles on. So it's definitely slower than last year. Last year at this time, we were finding rubs all over the place.
Well, that one spot in New Hampshire I got was pretty tore up, I guess, now that I think about it.
The one you're hunting this year?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, one of them.
One of the spots,
where I shot mine last year.
Yep. That's all tore up.
That was
tore
rub
up
line
last
was
year.
Open. Yeah.
Yep. But
and
nothing like it was.
That scrape I made.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. I had like 5 bucks in one night.
Yeah, that's pretty
camera.
Good. Yep.
And 2 of them fighting, and then the bigger one came back and ripped a bunch of the trees out of the ground, I guess. So, I mean, that's the only spot.
They're like wicked pocketed right now, kind of all in one little area.
Yep.
Well, there's a lot of cuts in that area, so they're just living in there.
The whole mountain, so it's like
they just live there. Yeah.
There's no acorns there, so it's like, what do? They're hitting the scrape at night, so it's like
hunt the scrape the end of the month.
Yeah,
it's about what you can do,
pretty much. But end of the month is a muzzleloader, so pretty much.
Yeah, Yeah, over in New Hampshire. Yep. Well, we'll see. I thought the deer back in late September, I was saying the deer were like 2 weeks behind what they were last year
Yeah, I
with
think
like
so.
this sign. But it's almost like the foliage is ahead. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's like the foliage is ahead of schedule and the deer are behind schedule. I don't know what it.
Yeah, I don't know what
weather-
the deal is.
It just goes to show you in the big, like I can tell you one thing. A lot of my off-season scouting I did last year, I can throw that right out the freaking window because a lot of that had to do with mass crop.
Yep.
And this year, the deer are not in the same areas. But, I mean, it's going to be a really fun year for me on snow because I'm going to be hitting those areas that I've never been before, areas that look cool to me. You know?
Yeah, and I don't think it doesn't really matter if you're on snow anyway.
No, it doesn't matter.
Most of the bucks you shoot anyway are eating ferns.
Yeah, oh yeah, when you're out tracking in the big country, but I mean, it's easy to get wrapped up and stuck in areas where you know there's a bunch of big bucks.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is it's going to be kind of cool cuz I'm going to be venturing off in a lot of new territory where I don't know. I've never even hunted before.
Yep, more to put in your back pocket for another year.
Yep.
Like this year.
Something magical about going hunting those big mountains where you've never been before too is like kind of an element of like mystery, I guess, or you know, what's the word? Like you don't know what's in there.
No,
you know, you're just looking
and
for
you
a big
usually
track.
kill one like that. So
Yeah, yep. Definitely.
So probably stumble upon a freak.
Hopefully, that's the plan. Hopefully, stumble on a big old 4-finger track. That would be the plan. What are your plans for like states and stuff this year?
I'm gonna try to focus on mostly New Hampshire, I think.
Yep.
Got a few good bucks over there. Maybe muzzleloader, I'll go to Maine, but if I haven't filled that New Hampshire buck tag, I'm gonna stay in New Hampshire and probably just follow the snow. Vermont, that's pretty much like if I'm staying in Vermont and I wake up in Vermont, I'm going to hunt Vermont. If I'm in New Hampshire, I'm going to hunt New Hampshire.
You're not going to focus on Vermont, though?
Like not as much as New Hampshire.
Right. Yeah, your odds are definitely a lot better in New Hampshire.
Yeah, I think so.
They definitely are. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but just across the river.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but it is what it is.
Yep.
There's some good bucks in Vermont, though. What I'll do is I'll definitely hunt New Hampshire for muzzleloader, and then come rifle, I'll probably try to get one in Vermont and then work my way over to New Hampshire.
Yep.
Unless the snow is elsewhere.
I got a lot of time this year, so I think I'm going to be a little pickier.
Pickier with your bucks?
Yep.
Yep. That's cool. Oh, I'm excited for it. Definitely cannot wait for the snow to fly.
Yeah, and with the bow season in Vermont, I don't want to be tempted to shoot something I don't really want to fill my tag
now that
with a bow when you wake up it would suck to wake up in the middle of November in Vermont and not be able to hunt Vermont because your buck tag's full. So.
Especially if you had shot one in New Hampshire already.
Yeah, then I might as well just head to Maine. And
pretty much.
Stay in Maine the rest of the season. But
you thinking Mass again this year?
Yeah, 100%.
Yep. Still gonna go down there for muzzleloader. We usually don't hunt very many days in Massachusetts.
Like 4 days.
4 days is a lot for us even. But we always do well.
Yep.
We always seem to get into something down there.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll find something.
Yep. Especially with a little bit of snow. Definitely helps.
What are your plans for the whole season?
I'm going to keep bow hunting in Vermont for another doe, hopefully. And if I can fill that, I'll be happy. And then I'll muzzleload hunt in New Hampshire for that early muzzleloader. And then after that, I'll hunt Vermont till I get a buck. And then when I get one in Vermont, I'll move over to New Hampshire.
So you're going to fill your Vermont tag before going back to New Hampshire if you don't shoot one with a muzzleloader?
Yes, most likely, yeah. I'd like to I haven't shot a buck in Vermont with my rifle since 2019. So it's been a few years. I've been bouncing around a lot, which is cool. I mean, I like bouncing around. I've been shooting bucks, but
I haven't shot one in Vermont since the same year, I think.
Yeah, it was the same year, 2019. So I'd really like to get one in the home state and I followed a couple of real good ones around last year, so I kind of know where there's a few good ones hanging.
I almost had one last year, so.
Yeah, yep, I did. I gave one a haircut last year on the second day. But I'd like to get it done close to home first, and then when I move over to New Hampshire, I got peace of mind.
Yep.
I hate leaving tags unfilled close to home.
It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard if you don't have a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't have a ton of time to take off, so I'm gonna just try to be tactical with it. Only hunt the snow days, and up my odds. And
well, if you shoot one in Vermont and New Hampshire, where you heading?
Adirondacks. Yep. I'm gonna hunt over there. I really want to shoot a buck and pack it out.
Yep.
I think it would be really fun to do. I've never done it, and I got a buddy over there that's been kind of showing me the ropes and stuff. And I know I've probably talked about that on here already, but definitely excited for that.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten a buck in the Adirondacks yet. I hunted it quite a bit there, but like 5-6 years ago we did it. That was kind of the first place we went, and I had a couple close calls over there. I let, I think, 3 or 4 bucks go over there, so I'm due for my Adirondack buck.
Yeah, it's hard hunting over there.
It is. I mean, definitely. I think there's some areas that are smoking hot.
I think so, yeah. But we never found.
No, we haven't. We haven't found it yet. I mean, I've got a good idea now, but man, those first areas we hunted were pretty desolate.
Yeah, we saw deer, but
I mean,
it was probably some of the hardest hunting, I would say.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, we were like right in the middle. We were in like the heart of the Adirondacks. Yep. And I did, like, I remember 12-mile days on 3 or 4 day old snow and never even cutting a deer track.
Yeah. No.
I was like, oh my God, it's worse than Vermont.
Yep.
But that country over there, I know they kill some real giants.
Yeah, they have been.
They have been. I mean, when you're in country like that, there's apt to be some real big ones.
It's hard.
Yeah, but it's hard. There's no cutting over there.
Nope.
It's all big old woods, big mountains. So definitely a lot of country, though.
Wicked.
We had some good times over there. You almost had one. You want to tell that story with that buck you almost had over there?
Well, we paddled across the lake. We brought Isaac's boat over there and headed across. It's the first year. What were you wearing?
I was wearing like camo denim pants.
Yeah.
A long sleeve and a woolly.
Yeah. So we were heading across this lake with a trolling motor, one battery.
I don't think that was legal.
Probably not. No. And it was like, 4 miles across it or better, probably.
Maybe better.
Yeah. And there was, I don't know, snowflakes the size of beer cans falling out of the sky.
Well, it didn't start out like that. It started out just a regular, like 40-degree day.
Yeah, it was fine.
And then the weather
halfway
switched.
Across it in a little boat, and there's white caps, and yep, we're gonna keep going. So we go all the way to the backside of the lake because there's no access in from that side. So we get back there, you're like dying pretty much. It's purple. Have to start a fire.
My jeans were soaked.
Yeah, get you warm back up. Fucking then we split up. You went one way. You were way out.
Yep.
Just cruising, and I was pretty close to the lake, and I found a buck track. So started following the buck track, and there's a bunch of scrapes out there and stuff. Following up the ridge, and I knew it was pretty fresh. It was almost like raining too. Kind of. The snow was real, like, grainy, it seemed like.
It was like 36
like
degrees
slush almost, yeah. But keep heading up through, and I jumped him a few times. I kept seeing where he stopped and looked back, so I did a huge loop all the way around up onto the top. Took me probably, like, I don't know, an hour to get around. I was just hammering up through there, and I get up on the top, start coming back over the front side again, and I found a rub, so I was like, well, I'll stand here for a few minutes. So I'm standing there, and I probably wasn't there 5 minutes, and that buck he's coming up the bank at me. So I'm standing there, and big white 8-pointer had like orange horns almost.
From alders.
Yep. coming up the bank, so I pull up my gun. Can't see anything. Fogged right over. Full of water.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep. So he came up through, like, I don't know, probably 40 yards, saw me, and headed right back down in.
What do you think he scored?
I don't know. He's big. One of the bigger ones I've seen in the
Dang.
woods. Yeah. At least 120s, probably.
And we never went back.
Nope. Never hunted there
We
again.
never went back.
Almost died.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I'll tell you what. When we were out in there, I saw a pile of deer tracks.
Yeah. A ton. I don't think anybody hunts it at all.
It was like impossible to get out in there.
Yeah.
But unless you take a boat. And there was a pile of deer back in there, but I never found a good track where
Yeah.
I was.
That one was like a normal Adirondack track, I feel like.
We're looking for the big
Like
Vermont Ridge
yeah.
Runner track, which is like comparable to a main track, really. I mean,
yeah, big Vermont buck.
you know,
yeah.
it seems like around here, I've been on a few where it's like, yep, that's a big one.
Yeah.
You know, like, he's over 200 and or close to it.
Yeah,
you know,
at least 180 pounds.
Yeah,
usually.
big buck.
Yeah.
Where it's like over in the Adirondacks, it seems like a lot of those deer are like 150, 160, even like the real good ones.
Yep.
But I mean, you see some of those guys over there, they do get them over 200 every once in a while.
Yeah, and when they do, it's like way over 200. It seems.
Seems
like
like,
220,
yeah.
240.
Yep. I've heard a lot of guys talk. Like, I mean, some really legendary hunters over there that have only killed a handful in their whole lives.
Yeah.
So that tells you right there, you know, the difference in deer.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'd say our deer are very comparable.
Yeah, I would say too.
In
Real
Vermont.
good buck around here is 160 pounds.
Seems
Like
like, yeah.
a dandy.
Yeah, especially run out.
Yep. When you go to the higher elevation stuff, you get some 200 pounders.
Yeah.
But
Well,
you
there's-
could be up there for 4 days and cut
Right.
his track once. So
Well, it seems like the areas in Vermont that produce 200 pounders are very small.
yeah,
It's like they're like little pockets of the genetics that it
yeah.
takes.
It seems like they're just most places they're just short. They don't get the length.
Yeah. Well,
Like-
yeah.
A foot and a half short or 2 feet short. It seems like.
Yep. And who knows why that is, but
Yeah.
just different deer,
Yep.
different, like,
Different genetics.
different genetics, I guess. Yeah. I know Lanny Benoit was saying, because I had always heard a lot of the old timers around here said that the mountains, the big mountains would make like shorter bucks or make like, you know, smaller bodies.
Yep.
And he said he didn't find that to be true. He just found that the bigger mountains would let the deer get older so they'd actually be bigger.
Yeah.
So he said it all had to do with age, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yep, it does. Because a lot of bucks around here aren't hitting even 3.5 years old.
Yeah, and like you said, a good buck around here is 160.
Yeah.
It's probably 3.5
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yep.
Most good bucks around here that get shot off these ridges, as soon as they get a rack,
Yep.
they're getting killed.
Yep. If you get on some of the higher mountains around here, those bucks are a lot harder to hunt, but they're
And they get
usually old,
Yep.
5.5 and up,
Yep.
big bucks.
And that's when they get over 200.
Yep.
So, yep. Well, hopefully, pray for snow.
Yeah.
I hope we get a
Hopefully.
pile of it this year.
Me too. I think we're gonna.
Yeah,
I
I
hope.
hope so. We already got some in the forecast for this week, so
Thursday up by me.
That's wicked.
Yep.
too
So-
bad there's no gun seasons open. Well, actually, the Adirondacks are open right now.
Yeah, I know. I've been thinking about it. But,
Can you imagine
yep.
4 inches of pretty fluffy
If
snow?
it snows, I'm probably gonna go. Gonna be hard not to. I don't know. I got a lot of work I gotta get done before, but
I hear you, but man, it's hard to pass up that
Yeah.
snow.
especially this time of year, doesn't seem like they're going far.
Man, if you can get on one this time of year, oh my gosh. I think it's harder to get on one early.
Yeah, probably because they're not moving.
Definitely hard. Like
But-
the one I got in New Hampshire a few years ago tracking, I had done like 5 miles before I cut his track, and he was way up high.
Yep.
And I mean, you know, if that was November 3rd. If that was in the middle of November, I feel like he would have been, you know,
Yeah.
a lot
if
easier
you
to
find
cut his
him,
track.
though, I think you got the ticket.
Mhm.
Like, he's probably gonna be right around there.
They're not lining out like they
No.
do in the middle of November. Yeah, definitely. I think early season, if you can get on one on snow, and then late season.
Yeah, I seem to catch a lot of them a lot more in that late season, but
Or in the middle of the season
had
if they're on a doe.
had a shit gun, so I had a few of them I didn't get to shoot.
Yeah, equipment, man.
Yep.
Equipment failure will get you every time. It will, it will. Well, what do you think?
Yep.
Call it?
Yep.
Well, thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.